let's talk about something wild, something absolutely fundamental to who you are. The fact that you, a living, breathing, thinking person, are made entirely of parts that, on their own, are completely lifeless. Yeah, let's dive into that, because it's one of the most incredible ideas in all of science. Just read that again. Let it really sink in. Every single thing that makes you alive, every heartbeat, every memory, is the result of a massive, coordinated dance between molecules that have no life in them at all. It's the central puzzle of biology. So how in the world does that happen, right? How does nature take a bunch of simple, non-living chemicals and assemble them into something as complex and dynamic as a living cell? Well, we're going to find out. We're going on a journey starting with the simplest atoms and building our way up to a bustling microscopic city. Okay, before we can understand the city, we have to know what the bricks are made of. And it all begins with just a tiny handful of elements you'd find on any periodic table. You know, what's so amazing is how simple the ingredient list is. Out of all the elements in the universe, life just goes, yeah, I'll take these 6, thanks. These guys make up about 90% of your body's dry weight. And carbon is the absolute superstar. Its special talent is forming long, stable chains, which is the secret sauce behind all the amazing molecules that life needs to exist. So if we zoom out from the individual atoms, what does the big picture look like? Well, surprise, you are mostly water, over 60%. It's the stage on which the drama of life unfolds. After that, you're mostly proteins. They do all the work, and lipids, or fats, which build boundaries and store up energy. And here, right here, is where the real magic begins. Life takes these simple little building blocks called monomers and strings them together into these massive, complex chains called polymers. You link amino acids together, you get proteins, the cell's little machines. You link nucleotides, you get DNA, the master blueprint. And you link simple sugars, you get polysaccharides for quick-fire energy. It's like building an entire city out of just a few different types of Legos. So we have our building materials. Now let's look at the architectural plans. It turns out, in the world of the living, there are really only 2 fundamental designs for a cell. On one hand, you've got the prokaryotes. Think bacteria. They're like a tiny, efficient studio apartment. Small, no complex rooms, and their DNA blueprint is just kind of floating around in the middle of the floor. But on the other hand, you have the eukaryotes. These are the cells that make up you, me, plants, fungi, and they're like sprawling mansions. They're much bigger, with all sorts of specialized rooms, or organelles, for every different job. And that's the mansion we're going to tour today. All right, let's shrink ourselves down and step inside one of these eukaryotic cells. And the best way to imagine it isn't just a house, but a whole miniature bustling city. It's got a government, power plants, factories, a postal service, all working together in perfect sync. Our first stop has to be the most important building in town, the nucleus. This is City Hall, the central command. It's a secure vault where all the plans, all the laws, and every bit of crucial information for the entire city is kept safe. So what's inside this command center? The DNA, of course, the master blueprint for everything. For us humans, that library of information is neatly organized into 46 volumes we call chromosomes. This priceless data is protected by a double-layered wall with guarded gates, pores that control exactly what goes in and out. And get this, the nucleus even has its own little factory inside called the nucleolus, which builds the city's construction workers, the ribosomes. Next up, let's see where this city gets its juice, because a city without power is a dead city. And in the cell, that critical job belongs to the mighty mitochondria. These are the tireless power plants, humming away 24/7, keeping all the lights on. Mitochondria are all about making ATP. You can think of ATP as the cell's energy currency. It's like the dollar bill that pays for everything. To be super efficient, their inner wall is folded up like an accordion, giving them way more surface area to generate power. Now here's a mind-bending fact. Mitochondria have their own unique DNA and ribosomes, totally separate from the main library in the nucleus. The theory is that they were once ancient bacteria that moved into our ancestors' cells and just never left, a permanent partnership. Okay, we've got a government, we've got power. What about industry? We need to make stuff. For that, we head over to the Endoplasmic Reticulum, or the ER. This is the city's huge, sprawling manufacturing district. The ER isn't just one single factory. It's a massive industrial park with 2 very different neighborhoods. You've got the rough ER, which is covered in those little ribosome workshops we mentioned earlier. This is the main assembly line for making proteins. Then you have the smooth ER, which looks smooth because it has no ribosomes. Its job is to make lipids, fats, and oils, and it also acts as the city's detox center, breaking down drugs and other toxins. So once all these proteins are made in the ER, you can't just dump them on the street. They need to be processed, packaged up, and shipped to the right place. That's the job of our next stop, the Golgi Apparatus. Think of it as the city's main post office and quality control center, all in one. Here's how it works. The Golgi receives the brand new proteins from the ER. It gives them a final inspection, maybe adds a few finishing touches, and then it sorts them and packages them into little transport bubbles. It even slaps on a molecular address label so every single package gets delivered to exactly the right spot, whether that's across the cell or outside the city entirely.
You know, any busy city creates a lot of trash. There are old parts that break down and need to be dealt with. To keep things clean and running efficiently, our cell city has a super effective sanitation department, the lysosomes.
A lysosome is basically a small bag filled with powerful digestive enzymes, chemicals that can break down just about anything. Their job is to digest invading bacteria or to gobble up old, worn-out cell parts. They are the ultimate recyclers, turning cellular junk back into useful raw materials. But the system isn't always perfect. The slow buildup of cellular waste, a substance called lipofuscin, is actually one of the key factors linked to the aging process. So we've toured all these different departments, right? But the true marvel, the real genius of the cell, is how they all work together. This isn't just a random collection of buildings. It is a perfectly integrated, self-regulating system. This is a city that never, ever sleeps. And nothing shows this integration better than a process called apoptosis, or programmed cell death. This isn't a messy, chaotic death. It's a planned, orderly decommissioning. When a cell gets old or damaged or just isn't needed anymore, it gets the signal to self-destruct. It then systematically takes itself apart from the inside, neatly packaging its own remains so its neighbors can clean them up. It's the ultimate act of civic responsibility for the good of the whole. And that brings us right back to where we started, from a few simple, lifeless elements to this stunningly complex, self-regulating city. It's time to zoom all the way back out and just appreciate the mind-boggling scale of this whole thing. Remember that one little cellular city we just toured? Well, this number, 10 to the power of 14, that's a 1 with 14 zeros after it. That's roughly how many of those cities are working inside your body at this very second. 100 trillion microscopic metropolises, all communicating, all coordinating, all working together just to create the single being that is you. So what we've seen is that a single cell is basically its own universe of complexity, born from the simplest lifeless molecules imaginable. It's this beautiful example of how, from simple rules and basic parts, something truly extraordinary can emerge. So that leaves us with one last question to ponder. If a single one of your cells is an entire universe, what does that make the 100 trillion of them that have come together to become you?